Okay, good morning, world. How are we today? Okay, well, as you can see at that little bit of window that you might be able to see there, it is very early and still dark outside. But we are making a video anyway, while it's fresh on my brain. So look, last night I had a dream, and dreams that like really kind of just shake you like to your core. They like have almost like a physical effect on you. That's the sort of dream I had last night, and I wanted to talk about it because it relates to my ex-partner from more than 10 years ago, and I want to talk about the lasting effects that ex-partners can have on you, especially the abusive, violent type. So the dream I had last night, he was trying to, it was about him obviously, and he was trying to mess with me in my life again somehow, which he has done in real life in many ways, and I'll talk about that. But in the dream, he was trying to basically make some more false allegations against me, and he had something he was going to like send through, like a document or something like that, in the dream. And anyway, so he's like tried to share a document to me, and in my dream I've received what I thought was the document onto an iPad. But when I was looking at the iPad screen in the dream, how you can see like a thumbnail that's like a really tiny version of a document? It was like that, except I could tell that it was a short video, and I could see my face on it. And so I clicked on it, and then I've watched this short video that was of me. Well, it was my face, but he has used AI to manipulate my face onto various different bodies. So sometimes in the video it was my face on a child, so it was almost like it was like the child version of me, and he had AI'd himself into the videos. When I was a child, AI child in the video, he was like smacking me and dragging me around, like mistreating me, then there was like different versions of me, like a gothic version and all these different versions, and in some way or another, each of the versions of me in the video he had made was being abused somehow, and I could tell that it was for sexual gratification, the whole video. And in the dream, it made me recoil. It made me feel physically sick. It made me feel violated on a really deep level, and I was in shock in the dream, thinking to myself, is this legal? Is this allowed, that he can use AI and my face and do this? And it was an accident in the dream that he had accidentally sent me that video. He wasn't supposed to share that with me. He was supposed to share something else. And he had just made a mistake and sent the wrong thing, or maybe I just had access to more of his things, from how he was sharing. Anywho, you know, so I woke up from the dream, like, kind of in, like, a bit of a cold sweat and, you know, like, panic, like, anxiety, you know, and it made me upset, like, it made me annoyed because, you know, for years I've actually had so many dreams about him, and it's not even like reliving you know, things that actually happened. It's like experiencing new violence and new abuses from him in my dreams, because of everything he really did in real life during our relationship and after, and who I know him to be. I guess it's not hard for my brain to come up with scenarios in my dream state that, you know, is stuff that he would do, you know. And so it's kind of like being re-traumatized again, but in your dreams, you know. And it just, it upsets me. It makes me angry to think that, you know, someone who violated me years ago and hurt me time and time again years ago, you know, I found the strength to leave that person. And yet it's like for years after, I still have had to be affected by him, you know, and we have a child together. And, you know, that's hard enough. You know, I mean, in the early days, I'm sure this is a common thing for a lot of other people, a lot of other women. In the early days, you know, I used to be upset that I had been so stupid to have a child with him. You know, just not been careful enough about what was happening in my life. And, you know, I mean, I'm forever tied to this person. And, you know, I've spoken a bit about some of the stuff with him in a previous video. But it's just, you know, it's really disgusting stuff. You know, and you think that you're like, you think that you're recovered from stuff, you think that you're like fully healed from things, and you've put it all, you know, you've dealt with it and you've filed it away, and you've moved on. But it can be just a dream that you have that like re-triggers you, re-brings stuff up. And, you know, there's a lot of anger that you carry, I think, when you've been the victim of domestic violence. You know, just anger at the injustice. And, you know, I had a bit of anger as well towards the legal system, and how that's designed really to be quite easily manipulated. And, you know, I know I've seen a lot of men on the internet talking about how their exes, their female ex-partners, had lied to the family court system, or other court systems in the country, had lied and made false allegations, and you know, it tarnishes your character on paper and all this sort of thing. And, you know, you've got to, it's not just a family court matter that you end up fighting, it's you end up fighting for your character in court, in other court systems as well, and with other authorities as well. And, you know, the financial burden of all of that is huge if you get representation. And the emotional, psychological, physical, everything toll that going through court takes on you, especially if you are representing yourself, is massive. And, you know, the system is not designed in a way that that takes like responsibility for that takes account of all of that. I mean, they say that they understand that it has a toll on people and on the children involved and all that sort of stuff. And so they say that they try to minimise the time that each different case takes in a court system. And you know, they refer you to different support things like for counselling and stuff, and then it's like, you know, dust your hands off, job done, we've done our bit, you know, and now we can put you through hell because we've told you where you can get help for counselling after this. You know, but they're not considering how some people really do abuse the system. And even before you get to family court, the system can be very, very badly abused. You know, it doesn't even matter if you've got evidence of this and that, you know, or for years you've been keeping record of this and that. Like, do you have your same phone that you had 10 years ago that you were screenshotting text messages on, or that you saved documents to, or emails to, or you know, whatever? Like, no, you probably don't. I have a whole drawer full of phones. You know, various phones that I've had in the past 10 plus years, and they're all smashed. You know, like when you drop the phone and the screen gets smashed. There's ones that stopped turning on, you know, because of damage. And I never was like one really to buy expensive phones. I think there was like one iPhone in there, and the rest were all kind of like cheap prepaid ones. You know, and my kids, you know, I've got 5 children now, but like even just previously, like having the kids, you know, play with your phone or whatever. I mean, that's always, you know, high risk, isn't it? You know, phones get broken from that. But anyway, so yeah, I did try to keep records of everything. I did have evidence of everything, but when you go to court and you're representing yourself and you're learning how to even do these documents and file things and you know, get things certified by a authorized person, and you know, how to collate your evidence, and you know, it can't be more than this many pages, and blah blah blah. You know, it's very, very difficult, especially when you're working with evidence that's on old broken phones and things like that. And especially when you know that the person you're up against is the sort of person who has been keeping a file going on their computer, you know, all this time, with their false allegations and their false evidence and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I think that he even was assuming, oh, she's not going to have any evidence still all these years later. You know, she's not going to still have the same phone all these years later. And actually, when he first started, you know, his stuff against me, well, there was multiple things, multiple times, but, you know, the first was he was alleging that I had trashed the house that we jointly owned, that he didn't live in anymore, but I still lived in with my children. And I had 2 children then. One was his, one was not. And you know, and I had photo evidence to prove otherwise, and I had a lawyer, and I sent everything to the lawyer, and you know, I paid the big bucks then, and I had representation. And you know, he was alleging that he had found, he actually went to the effort of, I don't know if they were actual like real drugs or what, but I think he went to the effort of going to, I know that his cousin smoked marijuana, and I think that he got these sandwich bag things from him, and he has brought them to the house after I had moved out, and he placed them like on a couch, and took photos of them and said, oh, I've found evidence that Christy was doing drugs, and allegedly gave it to his lawyer at the time, who was, he said his lawyer was keeping it in her safe. And I had said to him at the time, go take it to the police station, go take it to them, go make a report. You know, the police will come around here, they'll fingerprint the bag, they'll fingerprint me, they'll drug test me, all this sort of stuff. Go do that. You know, if you want to make these allegations, let's do it. And he never did. He never did. He never took it to the police, neither did his lawyer. His lawyer allegedly just kept it in her safe, in her office. And that's what the court documents say, you know, he wrote all that in court documents. And then there was allegations that our shared daughter had bruises on her. Okay. I have never smacked my children, ever. None of them. And, you know, children get bruises on them, okay, from playing. And he was trying to make false allegations that I had hurt my child, which is some, you know, disgusting, low-level, serious stuff, you know. And then at another point in time, when my daughter was, she had just turned 5, not long had turned 5. You know, so like 5 seconds ago, she was still 4. And he called the Victorian Education Department to try to get me in trouble for her not being enrolled in school. And in Australia, for years and years, you don't have to be, your child doesn't have to be enrolled in school until they're 6. And I didn't even think she was ready to be enrolled either, because, you know, she was still having like emotional meltdowns all the time, as like young ones do. And she still needed to have a nap every lunchtime, you know, which she wouldn't get when she's been at school all day, and all this sort of stuff. And he was just trying to be in control. He was trying to force me into putting her in school then, which wasn't legal. Like, it wasn't the law. And, you know, during COVID, at the very start of COVID, when, I mean, we were petrified just to go to the supermarket at the start. We were those people who would take stuff out of the shopping bags and bring it into the house separately. You know, before we came to understand things a bit differently, we were petrified of COVID at the very start. And we had a newborn at the start of it. One of my daughters was born on the 3rd of January. And it was right then, pretty much, when it was like a big thing in Australia when it started, you know. Like, even her maternal child health nurse wouldn't come visit us at our home when she was a newborn, because some of us in the house had cold and flu symptoms. Yeah, so during that time, I was petrified to send my daughter hours away to the Mornington Peninsula, where her father lived. But he also, you know, frequented very busy places, was around lots of other people, like for work, and I was just so afraid that she was going to catch COVID and get really sick herself, but also bring it home, and we all get sick, and we had a newborn. And so during that time, I had tried to negotiate with him. You know, we will do makeup time, but can we not do, you know, our privately agreed arrangements of fortnightly catch-ups just now? Can we put it on hold for like a month? And what did he do? He went and contacted a politician, a local politician, you know, to get advice from a politician on whether or not I can, you know, keep my daughter home. And I mean, at that time, we didn't have any like arrangements formalized through family court for child custody and things like that. So it was like it was a situation of like, well, there's no court orders being broken or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like legally, he couldn't force me and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and anyway, I'm just saying, like, you know, I have actually been put through hell by this guy, you know, family court multiple times, false allegations made that I had threatened his life. And that he was scared of me. You know, I mean, I moved like over 3 hours away from him after separation and after we sold our house and everything, because I was petrified to live anywhere near him or his parents. You know, his parents even came into my home on multiple occasions, trying to throw their weight around and tell me what to do. You know, his father threatened to take our shared daughter, you know, in his car, like away from me. If I didn't, it was like nearly midnight. And he wanted to come and take her to the hospital, saying that she was having a asthma attack. When I had already taken her to the doctor, she was already on antibiotics for a chest infection. I was keeping her father updated on her condition and everything. You know, she was asleep in bed at the time. He came in with his asthma pump machine, which she's never been diagnosed of asthma, and she's never been prescribed asthma medication. And he just started waving this asthma medication in her face, you know, the smoke one, and yeah, telling me that if I didn't take her to the hospital, because obviously she woke up from that and she was getting irritated in her nose and her throat from the smoke, and that was making her upset and distressed. But he did that. He woke her up. He was doing all that, and you know, she was fine beforehand, sleeping peacefully. And yeah, then at the hospital, you know, her grandfather told the staff to have security watching me, and that I had mental health issues. You know, I had his mother one time turn up early in the morning and start interrogating my daughters about what's been going on around here. You know, and telling me that I can't have, you know, anyone visit, like friends over to visit and things, because it's her son's house too. You know, just so much that I put up with stalking, and the electricity being turned off and on at the power box when, you know, from outside. You know, just drive-bys, stalking me even when I went to friends' houses for dinner. You know, knowing that when I was and when I wasn't at home. Knowing when there was and wasn't a visitor over. You know, just it was so much, and I just knew that, you know, even once we sold that house, even if I got my own place with my kids, you know, in the area somewhere, the stalking and the problems with him and his parents, they would not end. I knew that. And I didn't feel safe. I mean, this man almost killed me by strangulation. You know, it doesn't matter about everything else that he did to me. That was the point that I knew I had to get out, because I really truly felt like I was lucky to survive that, and if something like that happened again, I might not. And yeah, I couldn't take that risk. And I was also scared of him because he was a volunteer firefighter. I was also really scared that he might do something like
start a fire at the house, or near the house, to damage the property enough to make it so that the girls and I couldn't live there until it was sold, or do something to my car, or even if I moved into a different home and he knew where it was, that he might do something to my home there or my car there. I had years, even when I moved to Gippsland, I had years of really worrying that he was still going to secretly come and do something at night time, in the dark when no one, knew there was someone creeping around or whatever. And I tried to be really private with our address, because we did move a couple of times since we've been out in Gippsland. And I never even said like our address out loud in front of my daughters, because if they were interrogated, I didn't want them to feel like they had to hide the address. They would just know the town, and they just, because they were younger, they just weren't sure of what the street name and number was, I obviously shared what town we lived in and what school the girls were going to and all that sort of stuff. But I just didn't want the street name and number known. And there's been so many things, and me trying to get protection for my daughters as well, to not be interrogated, about our street address, and devices being sent home with location on, and being asked to draw maps and even layouts of our home, just the stuff that I've had to deal with, because obviously there's two exes, right? So I've got my very oldest daughter, her father, who was a drug addict, and a severe gambler, to the extent of not being able to pay rent or bills, or, I'd go to do shopping with my bank card that had my money from my job, and my card being declined because it turned out that he was stealing my card after I'd fall asleep at night, and he would go down to the pub with it and gamble. It was just ongoing problems with him, and he was abusive as well. I mean, even when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, he grabbed me by my wrists and forced me to the ground. He kneed me in the stomach. There's, issues with him as well. There was issues with him towards my oldest daughter. And she doesn't have to see him like in that way anymore. We went through family court as well, and it was agreed upon that she would only have to see him once a month for like a lunch in a public place, because of certain things. And but it's my second daughter's father is the one that I am, I would say, most afraid of, because he's the one that kind of has the psycho streak in him, where I feel like he's the sort of person who would climb under your house and start a fire, or he would sneak around in the dark and like cut your brake lines, or he's already tried to make false allegations about me to every authority that you can think of. Our family has been really, really put through it because of him. And, when allegations are made, to all these various authorities, you've really got to go through everything, all the interviews, all the, and children interviewed individually as well. Like, they get pulled out of school, and you've got to go have, testing done, and all these sort of things, that's really degrading as well. yeah, speaking to psychologists and dealing with the police and dealing with different court systems. And it's just, it's like a game. I feel like it's like a game to him, and he gets enjoyment out of it. And he gets enjoyment out of disrupting our lives and causing chaos in our lives and hardship. And I really truly believe as well that with the last family court matter, because of everything that he was trying to push and through separate courts at that time as well, I feel like and he knew that I was pregnant, and then I subsequently had a baby during all of that as well. I feel like he was trying to financially break my partner and I feel like he was trying to force us into a situation where we would have to either caveat or sell our property to pay for legal representation. He was trying to claim that I should have to pay for his legal fees, which wasn't agreed by the court anyway in the end. You know, yeah, just I think he was trying to mentally break me because of the timing that he chose to do it, when he found out I was pregnant and everything. Yeah, and it's just, I don't like to talk about stuff from years ago or even recent years to do with him or my other ex because, number one, it's embarrassing to talk about particular things. Number two, I don't necessarily want to share every private aspect and detail of things in my life. Number three, I have had a pretty big concern about either of those two exes stumbling across this YouTube channel. I'm very careful to not say names, but I don't know if they would, do anything. I don't know if they would do anything about the things that I've talked about. I don't know if they can make me remove videos and stuff if I haven't said their names and stuff. But yeah, it was a big deal for me to do this channel, even just purely because of that, like the concern that either of them might find my channel and then they can watch videos of me and my opinions and stuff. And that's kind of, I don't know if anyone will get that, but it's kind of intimidating, that idea. But yeah, so all of this is just sparked from the fact that I happened to have a pretty crappy dream about one of my exes last night, and it's just really not nice. It's not nice that after years of you think that you're really healing yourself and you think that you're really over stuff and you've done the work and everything, and then you can just have a dream where it's like you get re-abused and so you get re-traumatized or it re-triggers you in that way, and it's just really crap that can happen, and also I don't know, like sometimes I have thought in my life that I'm a bit like psychic, and I also question to myself, like, I wonder if he has tried to do something with AI, ever, or if he is trying now, I wonder if it's like sort of like a premonition. I don't know. But, that would be, I mean, if it was in the same way, like in my dream, that would be disgusting because what was in that video in my dream is disgusting. And, I mean, I hope people can't do stuff like that, but they probably can. You can just get these AI programs, can't you, on your phone or your computer, and you can just do people's faces on something and animate it and everything. Like I've heard about teenage boys doing that to other to teenage girls, and basically it being like a new way of like online bullying, isn't it? You know, which I'm pretty sure is a crime, like cyberbullying or something, isn't it? But yeah, so I don't know. Look, I just wanted to, I guess, vent because of the dream. And you know, when you like purge, when you like say you're with your friend or your partner and you purge something out that's upset you or whatever, you know, you can kind of dust your hands off, and you can kind of be like, all right, you know, that's it. I'm leaving it there. I'm done. You know, and I don't have to talk about that anymore. I don't have to think about that anymore. You know, and I'm going to move on now, you know. I guess that's sort of what the aim of this video was, you know. Just want to leave it there. But I also do want to bring attention to the fact that, you know, the abuse and violence that affected you years ago in a relationship, even though you do the work and you heal and move on and fill your life with good positive things and good positive people and all that, I guess maybe it always affects you. Maybe it always is like a scar on you, you know, and can be triggered. I don't know. It would be nice to think that that's not the case, and that, you know, in time it's almost like you forget that any of it ever happened to you. You know, it'd be good if my subconscious would. I don't like having dreams like that, you know. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to leave it there. This has turned into a long one. You all have a good day. Thanks for listening, and I will see you all in another video.